All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. I'm Heidi, and I work with our customers for Fanatical Labs. We also have John here today. He's our developer for SugarChimp. And today we're going to be talking about SugarChimp, which is the integration between Mailchimp and Sugar or SuiteCRM. Uh, Before we begin, I do want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, so it can be sent out to partners who are registered but aren't able to make it, and other potential people who want to watch it. Feel free to add your questions to the chat to the group or to me individually, and I'll be sure to leave time for any questions at the end. Just a little brief history before we dive into things. Fanatical Labs was started in 2012 with Jason Eggers and Chat Hutchins, which are some names some of you probably know pretty well since they've worked in this space for quite a while. They started with launching our sugar marketplace, where we work with partners to empower them and help developers succeed in selling their products. We've had SugarChimp since 2014, and we developed Fanatically Zen in 2016. Um, Over the years, we've grown our team to 5, including John, our SugarChimp developer, who's here today, Jessica, and myself. Um, and so that's kind of just a little bit of background about Fanatical Labs and what we do. We have 2 integrations. The first one is SugarChimp, the one that we're going to be talking about today, which works between Mailchimp and Sugar and SuiteCRM. And the other one is Fanatically Zen, which works with Zendesk. If you want to know more about Fanatically Zen, we are hosting a Fanatically Zen webinar in a couple of weeks, and you can sign up for that using the same link that you signed up for this one as well. We'll start with some basic SugarChimp and Mailchimp information, and we're also going to chat about some popular use cases and features that customers use with Mailchimp using the SugarChimp integration. Our goal is to make sure that you feel really comfortable with the integration and confident in answering your client questions to determine if SugarChimp is the right solution for them. We do have a few different pricing options depending on the features that are needed. The enterprise plan that's along the left-hand side doesn't differ in any plan features, but does add the ability to have things like on-demand training and manage upgrades by us directly. So as we go through the integration today, I'll be sure to point out the features and which plan they belong to, just to give you some good context for what might be a good fit for customers you may have in mind. So let's dive into Mailchimp. Mailchimp is an all-inclusive marketing platform that is fairly simple to use, but it also has some really robust and powerful features. It includes a lot of features like reporting and insights, automations, landing pages for lead generations, integrations for other platforms like Shopify and WordPress, and a lot of other marketing tools. So you can see why it's really popular among a lot of companies. We find that our customers choose it because it's simplicity to build beautiful campaigns without needing to know any coding, while still having all the features to make really more complicated automations or other features that a more complex platform might have as well. I would say that our customers probably gravitate towards the top 3 here. Being able to kick off automations based on CRM field changes, gathering leads through landing pages that are then easily synced back to the CRM for follow-up, and of course, reliable email deliverability and inbox acceptance rates so that customers are actually seeing these communications. All right, let's go ahead and dive into Mailchimp directly. The first thing that we'll kind of start in Mailchimp, then we'll hop over to Sugar, and then we're going to come back to Mailchimp to talk about more of the features in terms of building a campaign. So, some good context for knowing is here in Mailchimp, a list of subscribers is called an audience. You'll see here that we have an audience full of subscribers. SugarChimp syncs records and relevant fields to a Mailchimp audience so that the data is always up to date and ready for your next campaign. In our basic professional plans, you can sync fields from the contact, target, and lead level. So things like contact type or lead status, state, birthday, or title can all be easily synced. This is actually the first difference in plans, though, because you'll notice that we have account name here. If you want to sync something at the account level, such as account name or account type or anything that's at that account level, that requires our ultimate plan. Essentially, we're going up a level to grab a contact's related data and sync that to Mailchimp. What's really neat about this is that because we have relevant sugar data populated in these fields, we can then use Mailchimp segmenting tools to kind of target our subscribers in just the right way. So if we want to send a campaign to only certain people with a certain contact type, or people who are interested in certain type of products, or people with a certain type of status, that's easily done within Mailchimp using their segmenting tools. So you don't have to run a sugar report or consistently export and import data within one platform and then move it over to the other one. It's all done here within Mailchimp. Now that we've got that context, let's hop over to Sugar. We'll talk briefly kind of how to set it up, and then I'll show you where in Sugar you actually see the integration. So to set it up, it's done through the module loader like you would do through any other integration or plugin. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to install, and then it walks you through a setup process where you enter in your license key and your Mailchimp credentials. For SuiteCRM installations, instead of asking for Mailchimp credentials, it asks for an API key, which is generated from Mailchimp directly. Then it asks you to set up your first list. So what's worth knowing here is that the way that the integration is kind of working in the background is that it pairs a Mailchimp audience with a Sugar target list. And it's a one-to-one relationship. So while you can have more than one pairs of lists, we recommend having as few lists as possible to get the job done. So some customers may have a master list where they have all the records going to Mailchimp, or they may have one list that has contacts and one list that has leads. So whatever makes sense based on their workflow. The next step is determining who's going to be sent to Mailchimp. And this is the next biggest difference between our plans. This first one here will sync anybody who's on the target list to Mailchimp, but that is manually those records are manually added by the customer themselves. So that means that when they add a contact to their CRM, they're manually adding them to the target list if they want them to sync to Mailchimp, and then removing them if they no longer want them to sync to Mailchimp. This second option down here, this is part of our professional plan. Essentially, the SugarChimp integration is monitoring the Sugar instance for new records, and when one is added, that contact is added to the target list and then synced to Mailchimp. This is one of the best options when customers know they want all of their contacts or leads to be in Mailchimp, and they really want a hands-off approach and be able to automate their syncing. It's also one of the more popular plans for people who are looking to send welcome emails and other automated campaigns. The next two options are part of our ultimate plan. You can send just a subset of records to Mailchimp using our filters, or if the filters don't quite capture what you're looking for, you can also write a SQL query. This option is often used in companies who have maybe a lot of CRM records, but they only want to sync some of the records to Mailchimp. So for example, we have a customer who had 100,000 leads in their CRM, but only 20,000 of them were gathered in the last year. And so in order to save on Mailchimp costs and prevent themselves from having inadvertently reaching out to people inappropriately, they synced only the most recent leads. Another scenario where filtering may be helpful is to separate lists based on marketing teams. So we also have another customer where they have one team that manages contacts in Spain and another team that manages contacts in France. And so they may want to maintain two different lists using these filters. Finally, because it's a bidirectional sync, when records are created in Mailchimp, the customer then tells the integration how they should be created when they come back to Sugar. So this is helpful if teams are using, whether they're manually adding records in Mailchimp, but it's probably more common when they're using Mailchimp landing pages or embeddable lead generation forms in order to gather subscribers and consent to be able to send that data back to the CRM. Once the list itself is set up, customers then will set up their field mapping. So I'll give you some good context here in how that's done. Along the left-hand side, you'll see a list of the fields we've created in Mailchimp, and these will receive the data from the CRM. So once you've created that field, it's just a matter of simply matching up the fields that should sync to that Mailchimp field to receive that data. And that's kind of the basics of setting it up. Once you're done setting everything up, you can see a summary of everything on the health status page. So along the bottom, you'll see the list that we're syncing. And again, you can have more than one if needed. You can also see how many records are in the queue and how the schedulers are running. You'll notice that our schedulers are set to every 5 minutes. That's our default time frame. However, it can be adjusted. We just recommend shorter intervals to ensure the queues don't get backed up and that customers maintain accurate lists. The final thing that you may notice on this page is that we do have two schedulers. We have a smart list scheduler, whoops, down here. The smart list scheduler is used in the professional ultimate plans to make sure that target lists are kept up to date. And we have the SugarChimp scheduler, which is up here, and that's responsible for sending the data to Mailchimp. Now let's take a look and see where you see the integration kind of within Sugar itself. The first place is here on the dashboard with a Mailchimp campaign summary. So if you'll notice, you can select the name of a campaign here from the dropdown, and then people in Sugar can kind of get an update about that campaign, various information that they may want to see, like open rates, how many people unsubscribed, or if they wanted to view the email directly. The next place is at the contact level or at the record level. So here at a contact, we have a dashlet that's along the right-hand side. This dashlet is added, and you can see where this record is subscribed, as well as all their campaign activity. So you'll see send, open, and click data within this dashlet. With the professional plan and the ultimate plan, we'll also include these links so that you can view the email directly, or you can see the link that they clicked on. It's worth noting for SuiteCRM, we're kind of showing Sugar here, but SuiteCRM has the same information. Instead of you seeing a dashlet, you would have a SuiteCRM connector that you would use. At the professional level, you also have the Mailchimp rating. This is kind of an indication of how engaged the subscriber is. And then you'll see the Mailchimp activity subpanel. This is also part of the professional plan. So while the dashlet kind of displays this information on the right-hand side, what's really powerful about this subpanel is that this data is actually being synced to the CRM. So it can actually be used in reporting. I'm going to pull up some reports here. When you install the integration within Sugar, you get two reports to kind of get you started: the Mailchimp activities by campaign and type, and Mailchimp activities by audience. But you can actually report on Sugar data alongside Mailchimp data. And reporting is a key component for a lot of our customers who want campaign data available to Sugar users. That's actually what we'll chat about next, is some common reports that we've seen from people. Let me pull that up. Okay. So over the years, as we've chatted with customers, we've seen all kinds of helpful reports that are really creative and ingenious about how they're using this data. But I've pulled some of the three top ones that kind of come to mind. Customers can find reporting on subscribers who clicked on a specific link, and they might use these as warm leads to reach out to them personally. Or they might pull a report of all the subscribers who have 4 stars or more to determine customer or account engagement. And then another common report is to pull a list of everybody who opened emails that are assigned to a specific sales rep to determine those sales interests. Because this data is being synced to the CRM, we also have some customers who are using this data in Sugar BPM workflows, but that's not something we'll cover here today. So as you can see, installation and setup is pretty straightforward, but sometimes issues do occur. And so I've broken them down between on-demand and self-hosted. For on-demand customers, installation just always works. We just really don't hear a lot of issues with installation when it comes to our on-demand customers. More commonly, though, issues can occur on self-hosted instances, in scenarios when server permissions don't allow files to be installed properly or allow access to them, or maybe after installation, we may see a lot of errors or the scheduler is not running, and that is commonly an indicator that there's a firewall or VPN issue that prevents proper communication with Mailchimp. We're happy to troubleshoot all of these installation issues, or these two. We're happy to, let me clarify, we're happy to troubleshoot any issues that the customer encounters during installation, even if they are these ones that are kind of self-hosted and server-based. We want to make sure that customers get a true feel for the integration before having to pay. So we recommend that you don't hesitate to send a customer our way if something unexpected happens. In both scenarios, we want customers to understand how the integration is working, and so we encourage them to review best practices prior to setting up their first list. So after they've installed things and they're ready to set up that first list, we recommend that they kind of take a look at the data that they want to sync. Some customers have found that it would benefit. They may have years and years of data that's old that they don't actually need anymore. So some customers have found that they benefit from cleaning up Mailchimp or Sugar to prevent bad or outdated data from syncing and moving around. We typically also, as we mentioned before, we recommend that customers use as few lists as possible. This just ensures they don't pay more than what they need for in Mailchimp, because Mailchimp charges by the contact, and it really simplifies their process and ensures they're not contacting subscribers when they shouldn't. A lot of customers are used to kind of exporting a specific list from their CRM and importing it into Mailchimp, and we encourage customers to get away from that one-time export import thinking process and instead sync all of their records and the relevant fields so that they can segment the audience on the Mailchimp side. And then finally, we also encourage customers to use Mailchimp groups to manage the types of campaigns that a subscriber wants to receive, and we'll give an example of that shortly. Because we offer a free 30-day trial, we really encourage our customers to reach out to our team so that we can be thought partners for their workflow and to find the best solution to meet their needs. Sometimes customers just want to kind of chat through what they're looking to do, and we can make recommendations of how to set up their lists, what fields might be helpful to sync, depending on what they need. If they have unique needs, like we have a couple customers that they don't want to sync unsubscribed data from Mailchimp to the CRM, that's totally fine. SugarChimp is pretty flexible, and we have some advanced configuration options that we can put into place once we've kind of chatted about what they need. Finally, I wanted to cover some of our more popular use cases. So over the years working with customers, we've heard about a lot of different types of campaigns and automations that our customers use. I've picked out 3 of the most common ones. So we'll go ahead and pop back over into Mailchimp. Let me pull up here we go. So just briefly, before we hop into actually the types of campaigns that can be sent, I did want to mention kind of the design element of Mailchimp. One of the reasons that the customers really are drawn to Mailchimp is how simple it is to build a campaign that's really beautiful. Mailchimp has the really easy ways to drag and drop design elements based on what that campaign needs, and they have a lot of template options as well. So let me go ahead and bring that up here. So here's an example of a campaign that I'm building. You can see that you have a lot of different options for what it looks like in terms of like the style and how it looks, the colors on the page. But in addition to that, you can also just kind of drag and drop the elements that you need wherever you need them on the page. So it just really makes it simple, makes it so that marketing teams aren't having to know coding if they don't know it. If they don't know any HTML, that's cool. Mailchimp works and just is able to really create really professional looking campaigns. If you do have someone who wants to be able to edit the code, that's totally doable as well. So the first use case, and let me actually pop out of here, and I'm going to go back to the campaign itself here. So the first one is kind of topic-specific newsletters and updates. In Mailchimp, the customer can create groups, which we mentioned. It's a group within that one audience, which allows them to separate the types of campaigns that a subscriber is interested. And so when a subscriber goes to subscribe to this customer's information, they can select their email interests. This can also be synced to and from Sugar as a multi-select field so that you can ensure that both platforms are always up to date. So the way that would look like in the campaign is that they could then say, okay, well, I only want to send people who have certain email interests. I only want to send this to people who are interested in newsletters, and I want to send it to people who have a certain contact type. So you're really able to narrow down the scope of that campaign and make sure that you're hitting just the right people so that subscribers aren't getting overwhelmed with the amount of content they're getting. They're getting just the ones that are really interesting to them that would cause them to engage further. The second use case is sending date-based or milestone emails. So let me see if I can find here we go. Okay. So we've had customers use this for birthdays, anniversaries, or even annual membership reminders. So for this one, I've set up a birthday. So you can see I'm syncing a birthday field, and it's going to trigger one day before this birthday field date. Within the CRM, I've set up a field to sync that data, which includes the month and the day. And that data is being synced over here to Mailchimp so that I can trigger this campaign. And then I can also send up further campaigns based on that. Maybe a couple days after their birthday or a year later, I want to send a campaign. I can do that all within a date-based automation. The other thing that I'll note here is you'll notice that there's a post send action. So after the campaign is sent, if I want to then update information back in Sugar, I can do that by selecting what I want to add to this record and send it back to Sugar, or I can add like a tag in Mailchimp. All of those things allow you to then trigger additional emails. So you could say everybody who has a specific tag, or if they didn't open this last email, I want to send a campaign. And then the last use case that I want to mention, it's probably our most popular, is being able to send operation-based emails. So these allow customers to send emails based on Sugar field changes. So for example, if I want to send an email once a new customer has been assigned an account manager, or I want to kick off a series of re-engagement emails when a lead status changes from in progress to dead, I can do that. And one way we use this internally is, for example, is once I've completed a SugarChimp demo with a potential customer, I add them to our CRM as a lead. And based on certain fields like their product interests, we send out 2 or 3 campaigns summarizing some SugarChimp features to refresh their memory of what we've covered. And since the scheduler sends updated information from Sugar to Mailchimp every 5 minutes, our Mailchimp data is constantly being updated and automations are continuously being sent based on that information. So you can see that as you build automations, they can be incredibly simple based on what your customer needs, but they can also get more complex if that's needed as well. So that's the basics of the SugarChimp integration, but I'm eager to answer questions if you have any. What questions can we answer today? If we don't have any questions, that's okay too. John, would you add anything to what I've mentioned here? Anything else that you'd want to add?
No, I think you did a great job, Heidi. I think there was, the slide in there that we had that was about installation issues, and we said that, we don't run into any issues on demand, and then it kind of listed some things that we run into on it. It doesn't mean that we typically run into issues when they're self-hosted. We follow all of Sugar's, default. As long as you set up Sugar or SuiteCRM with the default file permissions that they say you should have, then it's going to work. It's going to install. And you're not behind a VPN or a firewall. So we don't have very many of those issues, but for sure, if you are on demand or, hosted by the cloud, then, we're not going to have any issues. So
that's a great point. Thank you, John, for pointing that out. We also have links to within our documentation. So when a trial starts, you get our installation guide, which has links to all of Sugar's recommendations in regards to those permissions. Okay, well, if there are no questions, what we'll do after this is we'll send out another email with the recording, as well as a link to our support site and, of course, our email address. So if you have questions or you want to see a screenshot of something that we covered today, or if you have a customer in mind that you want to get them in for a demo, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. Thanks for doing this, Heidi.
Thanks, guys. Bye.